Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Attack on Titan anime review. This one's going to be for Season 4 Episode 9, which is called Brave Volunteers. So, overall, I thought this was another good episode of Attack on Titan. This was a slower episode because they went back to explain, give some context to some stuff that was sort of just thrown in there. Like, we didn't know really what was going on for some of the big attack there at the end. Now we have better context for that. It doesn't explain everything, but it did a really good job at just explaining the core of what we didn't know. Mainly about the, hey, why do we have Marleyans like working with us all of a sudden? Who are these people? And so this is where the explanation on that comes from. And it links into some stuff they touched on in the previous arc about, all the scout ships that Marley had sent out to the island. And obviously here we get the idea that, because they have Eren and Armin as Titans, they had easy way to deal with any ships coming in. And here's how they basically captured a lot of Marleyan people. And they learned about Marleyan technology more so than they already knew by capturing some of these people. And then, to me, the most interesting dynamic within the episode was definitely just this idea of they managed to get some of these Marley people to interact with them normally, see them as like normal people, be friendly with them. And that was the example of Niccolo, who is a chef, I suppose, and he feeds them some Marleyan food, and it's their first time trying like seafood, and we have a nice Sasha moment. Obviously it's very sad to have this right after her death, but showing her loving all the Marleyan food. And I suppose what they were teasing was that Niccolo liked Sasha. I don't know how much more we were meant to read into it, because it seems maybe a little bit like over the top if literally Niccolo's sole reason for caring so much about Sasha is just that like she really liked his food. So I think there was probably meant to be like a little bit more there, and that's what they were teasing at. But still, just highlighting a character we didn't really expect, who also is going to suffer for the loss of Sasha. So I was sort of surprised that Gabi wasn't really involved that much in this episode, just showing her in a prison cell with Falco, and like seething with rage still about Eren. That was quite interesting. But the main thing here is probably explaining Yelena or Yelena and Onyakopan, where they came from. So Yelena ends up being sort of like the sort of quote-unquote leader. Zeke's technically the leader of this group, but she ends up being the one who talks the most here. She seems completely willing to give up all the information she has about Marley and join their side. The explanation given is that Marley, in taking over some of the other nations around the world, has also enlisted people from those nations into their military. And so these people from other nations don't like Marley and have sort of switched side to party now to go against them because they admire Zeke. Onyakopan seems kind of, pretty, relaxed, kind of chill. Like his kind of statement about, when Sasha asked him, what's with your skin color? He talked about how, I suppose a new idea to them that, oh yeah, like God made us this way because he wanted us to be kind of like varied and different. And they're kind of like, wait, what do you mean by that? Because they're so used to the way things are inside the walls, and the main religion was about the walls, and now they're hearing about like, no, the world is much bigger than that, and still, so little. But then Yelena is also kind of like, she views like the Titan shifters as gods, and that's the way she views Zeke, and the way she looked at Eren was like pretty much the same. So there's a bit of sort of, I suppose, zealotry there. And obviously, I suppose we're slowly setting up factions, I suppose, within the Paradis Island side of things, with Eren wanting to act, a lot of the others just wanting to talk, and which side is more valid in all of this. Plus you also had the kind of military, like Pixis and so on, sort of kind of betray everyone, but there's sort of the idea of, we're just trying to keep Zeke in check, and we sort of are forced to have to do that by sort of holding you all captive and so on. So yeah, there's still a lot of tensions going on here, and I appreciated the way they did that. That, you know, they're trying to be optimistic, but the show is still also trying to be realistic with the approach to the whole world hates the people of Paradise Island, so trusting them so easily is probably not the best move. But I think that's what made the conversation between Eren, Mikasa, and Armin probably to me the most interesting scene of the episode, in that Eren obviously is like laser focused on what's happened, and it has been this way since he discovered the truth, and the world isn't as free as he thought. And his approach to this is basically that Armin and Mikasa are being quite optimistic because, hey, some of the people from Marley are actually working with us and we're on our side. Why can't we talk to everyone and maybe they'll see that we're not as bad as they think we are? And Eren's point is like, but the reason they hate us is a fact. Like, they are correct. Eldians can transform into Titans. That's the reason they think we're monsters and devils. And you can't deny that. And that, like, yeah, sure, a few people we've captured have sort of come to work with us on our side. But how many people is that in the grand scheme of things compared to the amount of people in Marley, the amount of people in the other nations who apparently hate Eldians even worse? Eren can't quite bring himself to be optimistic about a handful of people when the whole world is the main issue. So he is still more focused on, right at the end of course, the need to fight to win and defeat his enemies, and that's the only way to achieve freedom, I suppose. Now, this obviously gets into, you know, like I said, like optimism versus just the kind of like realism, and how broken Eren has sort of felt in a way since the end of last season. When will we see any sense of hope from him? I'm not sure, but that was probably the most interesting sort of thematic thing that this episode did, was just present those two sides. That's it, basically. You have the likes of, I suppose, Levi, Hanji, Mikasa, Armin, and a lot of the other main scouts feeling that, like, hey, we can actually get on with a lot of the people from Marley. Eren, and I suppose some of the new Marley recruits, are the ones who actually are the ones who are most, no, we're against Marley, we're going to need to attack them to win. You know, this episode also covered stuff like, you know, the technology. How do they have improved technology in Paradise Island? Here's how. They explained a lot of this stuff to them. They worked together to make it happen. So they're much more informed about everything. But they also get across, through what Armin is saying tactically, that him sort of destroying the port was like a very key thing to avoid Marley just straight up counterattacking. Because as it's explained, Marley have like a military that's like 1 million strong. That's like basically unassailable. But now, with a lot of their fleet destroyed and a lot of their ports destroyed, they don't really have an easy way to get out to the island. So if any attack does come in, it's going to be more manageable for the sort of limited resources that our characters actually have. So I'm assuming that's coming. There's going to be some form of a counterattack, and that's what we're building up to. But we're going to get a few slower episodes like this to set things up. Because again, Gabi wasn't really a focus of this episode. I'm assuming they're going to have to bring her into things to see if we can change her mind at all on the people of the island. And it's, you know, Falco similarly, how does he feel once he gets to maybe see more of what's going on, and just more the reaction to everything. Because like they had Sasha's parents in this episode, you know, at her funeral, you know, at the grave, and you got across some of the dynamics, like some of the other soldiers from Paradis didn't like that Nicolo was at the funeral, but he actually, you know, did quite well, I suppose, talking to Sasha's father and offering, like, you know, him the same food that your daughter loved so much for free, and that was a nice scene. So, you know, there's these hints of like, okay, people are people, they can get on, but Eren's point of like, yeah, but can you do that on a worldwide scale? Because that's what we need to change. is the only way to do that is to fight and win, really. So that's what it's really getting at this point. Like, theoretically, is there really any way through sort of negotiation to actually end this kind of cycle of war and hatred? Realistically, I don't think so. It's probably too optimistic to think that way. But is there a way to do that through fighting? And it's kind of like, well, I suppose technically yes, but that involves wiping out everything that isn't Paradise Island, basically. And then won't that cause something else? Because, again, we got more talk about the rumbling and Eren finally like revealing to everyone the whole, here's how I activated the Founding Titan power, because it was the Titan that was Dinah Fritz, and the whole, you need royal blood and the Founding Titan power. A lot of that detail is coming out, and like the rumbling. Again, you have to add in the fact that, Willy Tybur basically said it to the entire world that this is what Eldia is planning to do. So he's already turned the world against everyone on Paradise Island. So the chances of talking are sort of over because he made that big speech and announcement. So Eren, I suppose, is thinking that, like, yeah, we kind of have to use this, but no one's really asking the question of just like, Eren, do you actually want to set the Wall Titans on the world? You actually want to kill everyone? Like, he's mentioning that, like, literally they're going to flatten the world. And is it just that, like, oh, now we actually have the ability to use this if needed, or does he actually want to activate it? That's the question. Because, like, we got a few scenes with, like, again, Zeke and Levi, and obviously they're taking care with Zeke to, keep him out of the way. So obviously, like, they can't just store him in the city, because if he transforms, he's going to destroy everything. So he instead is going to live in a kind of little room out in the middle of one of the forests, and a forest next to all the trees. So, if they need to take him down, they've got lots of grappling points, I suppose. So they're being cautious with Zeke, because obviously he did kill, like, they bring up the point here, why are we trusting him? He killed, like, the entire Scout Legion. But, that's probably the biggest thing that we need an explanation on, actually, is just, wait, Zeke, explain yourself here. Why are you on this side now? After you seemed so devoted to the Marley side of things before, to the point where you, like, sold out your parents. So, are we getting, like, a secondary Zeke backstory to explain how things have changed? Because, like, they've teased this since the start of the season, that Zeke was going to betray in some way, and then he actually did. And now we see more of the people who are joined up with him. But why is the obvious answer. Part of Eren's motivation to make stuff happen straight away is that he's aware that Zeke only has 3 years left to live. So there's that. The final point, I suppose, is just that a lot of the way this episode is sort of bookmarked is with Armin talking to Annie, who's obviously still encased in the crystal. And he's he is basically talking about his approach to this dynamic of just, like, basically, here's the situation that we're in. This is how I think, it ended up working out. We've had to kill people because this happened. Eren was going to make this attack regardless of if he had support or not. And we would have lost people either way if we hadn't gone or if we had gone. So, Armin's very much questioning, what is the right thing to do. So I'm guessing we're building to, I suppose what we need to actually cover is Eren's direct, like, punishment for what he's done, in that I think he's in prison as well, but we haven't really addressed, just how serious it is what he's done. Because, like, we've seen, like, the scene with, like, Pixis and everyone, them discussing what to do next, but they never really came to a conclusion. So I guess Eren forcing everyone's hand to make the attack to save him, he is going to be punished for it, but how badly, because they do ultimately need him. That's going to be quite interesting in terms of he's going to want to act again. So, it really depends on, like, how heavy are they going to lean into a lot of the tensions that are sort of building up between different factions here, because I did think one of the most interesting parts of the episode was Pixis ordering like his men to sort of like surround and point guns at Yelena and everyone. So that feels like that's a kind of rift that's kind of ready to happen, and that they are more loyal to like Eren and Zeke than they are to just Paradis Island. So are we going to get into a bit of a faction kind of squabble going on here? I'm not sure. But yeah, it's different. It's definitely different what we're exploring here. Like the contrast from the crazy battle within Marley to now really exploring like the aftermath of that, and will there be a counterattack? What's happening next? In that, technically, I suppose they can activate the rumbling whenever they want. Like they just have to put Eren and Zeke in the same room now that they have that information, and they can theoretically activate that if they need to. So I'm guessing that probably will have to be a big topic of conversation, and that's maybe why they've separated Zeke as well so heavily from Eren, because that's a very dangerous thing. That they're lucky in a way Eren doesn't just have the ability to do that straight off, because he probably would activate it now, I guess. But yeah, I like the complexity, the themes that they're exploring here, and I'm interested to see what they do with the next one. The preview didn't really tell me all that much, and like the episode's going to be called like Sound Arguments, so I'm guessing it will be exploring like what is the course of action of the island. What do we do now that we're at war with Marley? Do we wait and defend, or do we attack again? And the decisions made here are going to lead to different factions making different plays, I guess. So yeah, like Zeke seems to have a plan. I don't think they went into it in full detail, outside of just that the overall thing is that the rumbling can be activated at some point. So yeah, they're my thoughts on this episode. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts were, what I had to say about it. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.